Welcome to Kleppers Corner, Today in History, the show where we look at what humanity accomplished on this date and immediately regret that we peaked centuries ago. October 5th isn't just another random date. No, this one's got revolutions, rockets, rock stars, and Tylenol. It's like the entire human experience squeezed into one slightly cursed calendar day. This is the day when people marched for bread, invented airplanes, surrendered wars, and invented both the iPhone and tamper-proof packaging. Basically, it's humanity saying, okay, we can't stop chaos, but we can try to make it child-safe. Segment 2, the Women's March on Versailles, 1789. Let's start with the original angry mob, the Women's March on Versailles. On October 5th, 1789, thousands of Parisian women marched 12 miles in the rain demanding bread. When you've got hungry mothers with pitchforks, you're not looking at a protest, you're looking at a revolution with bad weather. They weren't there to talk policy, they wanted carbs. Marie Antoinette allegedly said, "Let them eat cake." That's like telling a crowd at a gas station protest, "Let them drive Teslas." The women stormed the National Assembly, confronted the king, and basically said, "Pack your bags, Louis, we're moving you to Paris." And he did. The monarchy was officially downgraded from divine power to roommates with the revolution. So yeah, one day you're ruling France, the next you're carpooling with your captors. This was history's first successful case of political carjacking. Segment 3, the Jarrow March, 1936. Fast forward to 1936 Britain. The Jarrow Crusade begins. 200 unemployed men marching 300 miles to London just to ask for jobs. These weren't activists, they were starving shipyard workers walking a marathon with no snacks. Their MP, Ellen Wilkinson, led them, the only woman in the group and probably the only one smart enough to bring proper shoes. They arrived to polite applause and total government indifference. But decades later, that march helped inspire the welfare state. Moral of the story, if you walk far enough and wait long enough, someone might listen, or at least name a documentary after you. Segment 4, Derry Civil Rights March, 1968. Now, hop to Northern Ireland, October 5th, 1968, where peaceful protesters demanding equal rights got beaten on live TV. It's like if C-SPAN suddenly turned into an action movie directed by Stanley Kubrick. The police brutality sparked decades of sectarian violence, the Troubles. A march meant to demand fairness ended up starting a 30-year conflict. Talk about a bad day for optics. The lesson? Governments should really stop making global headlines for hitting citizens with batons. It's never a good look, especially in black and white. Segment 5, the Battle of the Thames, 1813, Death of Tecumseh. Back in America, October 5th, 1813, Shawnee leader Tecumseh made his last stand at the Battle of the Thames. He was trying to build a native confederacy to stop American expansion. But the British, his supposed allies, did what Britain does best, retreated early. Tecumseh fought valiantly and was killed in battle, marking the end of large-scale indigenous resistance east of the Mississippi. The dream of a unified Native alliance died with him. And in a poetic twist, William Henry Harrison, the general who defeated Tecumseh, later became president and died after 1 month in office. The universe sometimes does poetic justice. It just takes a century and a half. Segment 6, Chief Joseph surrenders, 1877. 64 years later, October 5th, 1877, Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce finally surrendered after a 1,700-mile retreat trying to escape to Canada. Imagine being chased halfway across the continent just to end up 40 miles short. When he said, "I will fight no more forever," you could practically hear history sigh. This wasn't defeat. It was exhaustion turned into poetry. Chief Joseph showed that dignity can outlive victory, something modern politics could learn if it wasn't too busy rage tweeting at 2 a.m. Segment 7, the Wright Flyer 3 takes flight, 1905. Now, let's lighten up, or at least take off. On October 5th, 1905, the Wright brothers finally built a plane that didn't nosedive like a toddler learning to swim. Wilbur flew for 39 minutes straight, proving powered flight was practical. Before that, their planes were basically expensive lawn darts. This flight changed everything, turning walking distance into flying distance, and we might die into please remove your shoes and belts. Every delayed flight you've ever suffered traces back to this moment. Thanks, Wilbur. Segment 8, Truman's televised address, 1947. Then, in 1947, President Truman became the first U.S. president to address the nation on live television. His topic? A post-war food shortage in Europe. Basically, he went on TV to tell Americans to skip meat on Tuesdays. Imagine the first use of a new mass medium being a call for diet discipline. It's like if TikTok launched with a lecture on portion control. But this was revolutionary. Truman proved presidents could speak directly to the people. From that moment on, politics became theater, and the White House became the longest-running reality show in history. Segment 9, Goddard's birth, Jobs' death, the tech continuum. October 5th also gave us the birth of Robert Goddard, father of modern rocketry, in 1882, and the death of Steve Jobs in 2011. That's poetic symmetry. The man who made space travel possible and the man who made us believe a phone update was a spiritual experience. Goddard dreamed of space when most people couldn't dream beyond steam engines. Jobs, meanwhile, turned space-age technology into your grandma's selfie camera. Together, they show how innovation evolves, from the rocket to the pocket. It's like history whispered, one small step for man, one giant leap for consumer electronics. Segment 10, the British invasion begins, 1962. Now, here's where it gets loud. On October 5th, 1962, the Beatles dropped Love Me Do, and the first James Bond movie, Dr. No, premiered. On the same day, Britain basically invaded global culture twice before lunch. The Beatles were anti-establishment, Bond was the establishment. One told you to hold hands, the other shot people with class. Together, they became Britain's greatest export since tea and passive aggression. And for one day, the world realized maybe empires fall, but style lasts forever. Segment 11, the Tylenol murders, 1982. And then there's October 5th, 1982, the day corporate America finally learned empathy, or at least PR strategy. After several Chicago residents died from cyanide-laced Tylenol, Johnson & Johnson pulled 31 million bottles off shelves nationwide. Cost? Over $100 million. PR value? Priceless. It wasn't their fault, but they owned it. That's right, a pharmaceutical company took responsibility in the 1980s. Historians still aren't sure how that happened. Their response led to tamper-proof packaging and the phrase, "trust the brand," meaning something again. At least until Facebook showed up. In conclusion, endings and beginnings. So what's the moral of October 5th? That progress and collapse are two sides of the same coin. The same day can hold revolution and surrender, invention and extinction, Beatles and Bond, rockets and recall notices. Humanity keeps repeating itself, just with better gadgets and worse attention spans. We keep marching for bread, flying too close to the sun, inventing things we barely understand, and trusting the next genius until he charges $19.99 for an adapter. October 5th reminds us, every ending is a beginning, and sometimes the revolution just needs a snack.